Welcome to Healthcare Signals That Matter with me, Meghana Arun Pillai, powered by Intent.Health. This week, the signals coming out of the US healthcare market point to 5 major shifts that every healthcare leader, marketer, investor, and innovator should be watching. First, Ebola has evolved from a public health story into a healthcare infrastructure story. Second, AI is moving deeper into drug discovery, regulation, and clinical development. Third, obesity continues to reshape the pharmaceutical landscape far beyond weight loss. Fourth, regulators are signaling faster pathways for advanced therapies while simultaneously increasing enforcement pressure. And fifth, healthcare capital continues flowing aggressively toward innovation despite growing clinical and regulatory risks. Let's get into the signals that matter this week. Signal 1. Ebola is now a healthcare infrastructure story. This was the dominant signal of the week. Multiple developments suggest the US is preparing for a prolonged Ebola response rather than a short-term outbreak. Merck confirmed discussions around using its COVID antiviral capabilities in Ebola response efforts. Moderna partnered with global health organizations to develop a vaccine against the Bundi-Bujo Ebola strain. The US indicated it may appoint a dedicated Ebola response coordinator. Officials also suggested the US may re-engage with Gavi, the Global Vaccine Alliance. Meanwhile, the US announced nearly $38 million in additional Ebola funding, pushing total support about $200 million. The CDC warned the outbreak could potentially resemble the scale of the 2014 West Africa crisis if containment efforts fail. At the same time, significant controversy continues around the proposed US-backed Ebola quarantine facility in Kenya. Protests broke out, legal challenges emerged, and yet US experts still arrived on site to continue preparations. Healthcare leaders also pushed back against plans to treat exposed Americans overseas, arguing that domestic treatment centers are already fully capable of handling Ebola cases. Signal: the Ebola response is no longer simply about outbreak management. It is becoming a global healthcare logistics, preparedness, funding vaccine development, and infrastructure story. Signal 2 of the week. AI is moving from experiment to healthcare operating system. This week produced some of the strongest AI signals we have seen all year. Alnylam signed an AI-driven drug discovery partnership with Inceptive worth up to $2 billion. Bristol Myers continues expanding AI-powered discovery initiatives. The FDA announced plans to evaluate an AI tool designed to predict drug-induced liver damage. The US Health Department launched AI-driven fraud detection programs. And healthcare AI company Commure recently crossed a $7 billion valuation milestone. Signal: healthcare AI is no longer being treated as a future technology. It is increasingly becoming core infrastructure of discovery, development, regulation, and operations. Signal 3 of the week. Regulators want to accelerate advanced therapies. The FDA proposed using existing scientific evidence to speed gene therapy development. The agency also engaged directly with rare disease organizations to improve collaboration and rebuild trust. Meanwhile, Eli Lilly licensed new gene editing technology aimed at kidney disease drug development. The signal: regulators are searching for ways to reduce development timelines while maintaining safety standards. That creates opportunity across gene therapy, rare disease, and precision medicine. Signal 4. Obesity is becoming the next multi-trillion-dollar therapeutic platform. The obesity market delivered several major signals this week. Structure Therapeutics reported encouraging safety data for its obesity pill, showing no signs of liver toxicity. Research also suggested GLP-1 therapies may provide benefits across multi-cancer types. Meanwhile, Lilly continued expanding global through new licensing partnership and obesity-related investments. Signal: the market increasingly view obesity drugs not as a single category, but as a platform capable of influencing oncology, cardiovascular health, metabolic disease, and preventive medicine. Signal 5 of the week. Drug development remains high reward and high risk. Several companies experienced dramatic market reactions this week. The FDA declined approval of Singulate's ADHD treatment. Fulcrum abandoned its sickle cell program after cancer risk concerns. Praxis failed to meet the primary endpoint for its epilepsy therapy. Celcuity shares plunged following disappointing breast cancer data. Abivax shares also fell sharply after inflammatory bowel disease trial results disappointed investors. On the positive side, Travers's signed a kidney disease licensing deal worth up to $1.14 billion. And Edgewise agreed to sell its muscle dystrophy business to Survey in a deal worth up to $2.65 billion. Signal: capital remains available for breakthrough science, but investors are becoming increasingly unforgiving when clinical expectations are missed. Signal 6 of the week. Healthcare deal-making remains strong. Despite market volatility, strategic healthcare investments continue. Servier's acquisition of Edgewise assets. Travers's billion-dollar licensing agreement. Lilly's international licensing partnerships. Laserway exploring a potential sale. Parabilis pursuing a US IPO. These all indicates that the healthcare remains one of the most active sectors for the capital deployment. Signal: investors continue rewarding differentiated science, specialty care, and scalable healthcare platforms. Signal 7 of the week. Regulatory and legal pressure is intensifying. Healthcare companies focus significant regulatory scrutiny this week. The Supreme Court sided with generic drug makers in a major patent dispute. Abbott must now face litigation regarding growth claims tied to Pediasure. Medline received another FDA warning regarding quality concerns. The federal government launched a new fraud initiative that could increase risks across healthcare and life sciences. The administrations also cut funding to Hawaii's Medicaid fraud unit. Johnson & Johnson scored an important legal victory in ongoing talc litigation. Signal: healthcare organizations face increasing pressure on compliance, quality, transparency, and documentation. Signal 8 of the week. Transgender healthcare remains a major policy battleground. Several court rulings emerged this week. A judge allowed states challenging transgender care investigations to continue their lawsuit. Another federal judge blocked Florida's lawsuit against an organization supporting transgender youth care. And a Rhode Island judge referred DOJ attorneys for possible disciplinary review in a transgender care records dispute. Signal: the debate is expanding beyond healthcare delivery and increasingly becoming a question of legal process, federal authority, and healthcare governance. Signal 9 of the week. Healthcare security is expanding beyond human health. Another important development emerged this week. An unconfirmed screwworm case rattled livestock's market. Days later, a second screwworm case was confirmed in Texas. Signal: healthcare preparedness is increasingly overlapping with animal health, food systems, agriculture, and biosecurity. The next major healthcare challenge may not begin inside a hospital. So, what are the healthcare signals that matter this week? Ebola preparedness is evolving into a major healthcare infrastructure challenge. AI is becoming embedded across the healthcare value chain. Regulators are trying to accelerate advanced therapies. The obesity market continues expanding beyond weight loss. Investors remain committed to healthcare innovations, but expectations are rising. Legal and regulatory scrutiny continues to intensify, and healthcare security increasingly includes human health, animal health, and global preparedness. The biggest signal this week: healthcare is no longer reacting to disruption. It is actively redesigning itself around it. This is Meghana Arun Pillai, and you've been watching Healthcare Signals That Matter, powered by Intent.Health. Thank you for watching and see you next week.